Okay, today we are going to take a look at this Hackboard 2 single board computer. Basically, this is the original box that it came with. This one is the Debian Linux version of this board, and this is the one out of box and does have the heatsink installed. And this one is in the official Hackboard case enclosure with heatsink and everything. So it does have passive cooling. There's no fans or anything. We are going to take a look at that. And also we will compare it, although it might not be very fair comparison, but we are going to compare that with this Raspberry Pi 5 with the Pineberry Pi installed on it with a SSD, NVMe SSD on it, because this one also comes with an NVMe SSD. So we'll check that. And also there is the 4G module for this Hackboard, which we are going to take a look at that as well. So with that in mind, let's get started. Okay, so first, when you buy this board, it comes in this box. Although it looks like a very big box, it's actually, the computer itself is just this big. I think this is 120 millimeter by 80 millimeter, so 8 centimeters to 12 centimeters. So this is the size of the Hackboard 2. And when we take this out, yeah, so this is what you get when you buy this board. Basically, this is the board itself. Here, Hackboard 2, the Debian version. There's also Windows, I think 10 version of it. So this is the Debian version. User, Hackboard, and root password is HB2 capital. So I think all the boards are shipped that way. So let me get this out of this bag. Yeah, so same thing, right? This one just has this heatsink installed. The default, it doesn't have it installed, but it comes in the box. So just take this off and place it in there. So in terms of, I/O ports and what you get in the board, this is a full-size HDMI port that you will get. There is a USB-C port and 12 volt 3 amp power jack in here. There is also a USB 2 connector which can be used for connecting a camera. There is a 10-pin battery connector which you can buy something around $36 to $40 in AliExpress. Some batteries 7.6 volt, basically connected to power this whole board if you want to, with LiPo batteries. There is also a Raspberry Pi compatible pinouts basically here, I/O pins here, GPIO pins. I will show you the pinouts when we are doing the testing. So here you will get 3 USB 3 ports, and this is the RAM. Basically, I got the 4 gigabyte version, so 2 gig in each of these RAM modules. And the processor is Intel Celeron N4020 and dual core, 64-bit, and it can go up to 2.8 gigahertz and 4 megabyte cache. And it also does have the Intel UHD graphics 600, which would give you 4K HDMI output as well. HDMI 2.1, by the way. So there is also anything else special in here? I don't see it. There is also a fan connector in here. If you want to, instead of this passive cooling using the official case, you can go with a fan and connect it with this fan connector. On the other side, you will get this SSD drive pre-installed. It basically comes with it. The second one, it says right here 4G 5G SSD. So we're going to take a look at that. You can install a 4G or 5G module in here. This is that SIM card slot for that 4G or 5G. And then this one is called EDP, basically embedded display port. It supports up to, I think, 40p. Yeah, so we'll check that. And then there is also this TP port, which is touchscreen. Yeah, nothing special. Oh yeah, there is this Wi-Fi module in here. So this is Intel dual band, I think AC 950/60. So this rated at 1.7 gigabit per second. We'll check that. There's also Bluetooth 5.1. And yeah, as I said, you can install the 4G or 5G cellular modem in here. And this is the 40-pin GPIO, just like the Raspberry Pi. Just size-wise, this is much smaller, as you can see. But I think the pinouts are identical, I think. We'll check that. So yeah, we talked about this processor, the RAM, the rest. This is like power delivery stuff over here. In the back, we just have this IC. It says basically IT8987E. So I think this handles the serial flash, BIOS, and keyboard controller and everything else. I got the data sheet for this in here. Yeah, it seems like hardware monitoring does have analog to digital converters, fan speed controller, UART, parallel port. I don't think it's used here, but yeah, keyboard controller, and 40 general purpose IO pins, which could be the chip that, you know, manages the GPIO pins. So yeah, that's the data sheet. And when it comes to GPIO pins, the pinouts, I printed that as well. So it looks very, very similar, if not identical, to the Raspberry Pi pinouts. So yeah, the 3.3 volt in here, 5 volt, and the rest of GPIO ports in here. So we'll test that. We'll write some small Python code to see if we can turn stuff on and off just to test. And we'll benchmark it against the Raspberry Pi. So, oh, what else is in the box? So you get the board, you get the heatsink to be put on the CPU, you get the power adapter with different connections. So this one, I think this is the US one. I'm going to be using this, but there's for Australia, UK, and European plug in there. So you basically put this in there and twist it, and that's it. So now it's ready to be used. Also, you get some stickers. Yeah, you get some letters and digits and Hackboard stickers, different designs, all comes. Oh, there was also a GPIO. I didn't need to print it. Yeah, but yes, this is a GPIO configuration. So some more information. Yeah, there's pinout over here. There's also pinout over there. So this one's black and white. This one's color. And it basically explains the warnings and key features. Oh yeah, everything I talked about is also here. So yep, this is pretty much it in terms of what is in the box. So let's put this aside and let's start doing some benchmarking and some testing. I'll be right back. All right, so let's get this set up. This is the Hackboard. Let's set this up. The power connection, the HDMI cable, a USB mouse, a USB basic keyboard, nothing fancy here. All right, so we plugged everything. So automatically by just plugging the power, it doesn't turn on. You have to hold the power button for a couple seconds. And let me start also the screen recording. So once you hold and press the button, it turns on. I did not install anything. Whatever is going to show up on the screen going to be stock, and whatever they shipped it with. So yeah, keep that in mind. So this is the Debian version, as I said before. It's booting. I think it roughly takes like 15 seconds or so to show the login page. Okay, so everything is hooked up, as you can see. And this is the Hackboard 2, and I am booting into it with the default password, which is the HB capital N 2. So this is the board, and I went through it, so I just want to cover a couple important points. Most important thing is, remember, I didn't do the comparison first to Raspberry Pi. They did it themselves on their website, right? So they are comparing Hackboard to Raspberry Pi. So I am going to keep doing the same thing. So once we log in, as you can see, we are greeted with this KDE Plasma. And if we do a neofetch, you'll see that it is running Intel Celeron N4020 at 2.8 gigahertz. And it does have the Intel UHD graphics 600. And there is also 8 gig RAM in there, Debian 11, and the Plasma and KDE, as I said. So there are a couple important things that I want to point out that during my exploration I figured out. So first of all, the GPIO pins are just absolutely unusable. And I am not the only one with this problem. I Googled it and I saw a lot of other people complaining, especially on Reddit, that these ports are not usable. There is absolutely not a single line of documentation. I emailed Hackboard and they did not return to me. I just told them as well about this GPIO stuff, and no matter what I did, I could not get it to just turn on a single LED using this GPIO pins. Something that I can do probably within like a matter of couple seconds in this Raspberry Pi. And documentation wise, there is just absolutely no documentation. There is no documentation for the 4G or 5G modem. There is no documentation for GPIO pins. GPIO pin sizes, although the pinouts are identical to Raspberry Pi, but they are, as you can see clearly, different size, and you cannot use hats you were using with Raspberry Pi with the Hackboard. Overall, this is anything but a hack board. You cannot hack anything with this. You cannot do anything with that, with the GPIO pins. And when it comes to some benchmarks, right, that's also underwhelming. So if we just do the Sysbench CPU and run it with 4 threads, what you will see is going to be a disappointment, basically. The numbers are not that impressive. Well, I guess you're not buying this for the CPU. So yeah, 3200 events per second, and that's with the 4 threads. And the other thing that I wanted to do was basically doing the storage test. If I had it here, but okay, let me use here. Yeah, so let's get out of this sudo storage.sh. Yeah, so let me run this test. I just want to show you, as I said, these boards come with an NVMe SSD storage. For Raspberry Pi, you have to buy a hat and install an SSD on it. So, but price difference, this combined with the fan add-on and the hat and the NVMe SSD may be equal when you do that. So price-wise, they might be equally. I think, yeah, this is the $80 for the 8 gig, but that's also 8 gig. And this is the hat itself was around $50, I think. And the SSD just depends with what brand you buy, right? So as you can see, the speeds are 400 megabytes per second, 470 disk read, and 186 is the write speed. So overall, 70,000 IOPS for the random read, and random write is 49,000, say 50,000. It's very underwhelming. I'm going to show you the results from Raspberry Pi so you can decide for yourself. The CPU benchmark is not that impressive. The I/O speed is not that impressive. There is no way, absolutely no way whatsoever, you cannot access the GPIO pins. So I will show you what I did. There is a tool called GPIO Detect. It's basically from the libgpio. So you will see that there are 4 INT3453 GPIO chips, right? There are 80, 20, and 35 lines on each GPIO chip, which could be the chip that I was mentioning in the beginning of the video, this ITE chip, right? This could be, I'm not sure, because they don't release the schematics. And I tried to trace the pins in here. It all goes through vias and another via, and I see them connecting directly to the CPU, some of them. So I'm not sure if I couldn't trace. I also did continuity test from here to various pins on this chip. I couldn't get it. So there's like 4 GPIO chips, and when you do GPIO info, you will see the status, current status, input, output, their situation, and you can change them. So what I did, which you should not do because you can damage something, is basically I brute forced it. So for instance, this chip, I just brute forced GPIO chip 2. So what you can do is you can say GPIO set and then GPIO chip 2, and then you can say the line, let's say 10, right? The 10 equals 1. This would set this line number 10 to output and set it to high. So we can test this easily. If we run it back, as you can see now, this is an output. So I did this. I wrote a small for loop in bash and just did all the pins. So this one didn't cause the system to crash, but I could not get that to light up anything. I couldn't control any of these GPIO pins with this. I did this with all other GPIO chips, same result. It's just not working. It's not here. It's not connected to this. So I'm not even sure if it is even possible. Maybe they designed it at the beginning and at the end they couldn't figure it out. Something was lacking. It would have costed more or something. They cut the corners, something, I don't know. It just doesn't work. I could not get it to work. There's no documentation, and other people are complaining about the same problem. And library-wise, I downloaded and installed a lot of GPIO libraries. I could not get it to work. So that could be one of the biggest problems, but there are other problems too. So the coil whirring, I don't know. I really hope that it is getting picked up by the microphone, but the coil whirring is terrible in this. It's just right now, I hope you're hearing it, but you cannot stay in a room with this turned on. You can put it maybe away in a rack and close the door and then forget about it. But if you are planning to use it in a room right next to you as a small thin client or something, I don't think you can. That's just my opinion. This is just bothering me a lot, even during the recording of this video. And that's also, I'm not the only one. Other people are also saying the same thing. The coil wearing is unbearable. I tried. I have like 3 boards, right? Already I have this, and there's another one. I don't even know where it is. Yeah, this over there. So it's same all over. Some are worse, to be fair and honest, but they all have this coil wearing. I will investigate that maybe later, but yeah, that's one of the problems. And the other problem I had was NTP was not installed, so I could not set the date and time. I had to go over, you know, it's for regular user who just wants to start it and set the date and time. I couldn't do it, so I had to just come here, do a sudo install apt, install NTP, sorry, and then get the time and date zone to set properly. So let it set, because if you don't set your NTP, you can't even do web browsing, right? Remember, that's important. There is also a CR927 battery cell here for adding the BIOS battery, so you don't lose that. But by default also that is not installed, so that's also, you have to buy those. It's not expensive, but that's another thing that you have to do. And another problem that I had with this board is actually this. Take a look at this. If we do the sources.list, as you can see, the mirrors are from Huawei. So I was wondering why the apt installs are slow, and it's not supposed to be slow in my network. But yeah, it's just the default. That's what they ship it with. So if you get the Debian version of Hackboard out of box, if you do apt update, it's going to talk to Huawei. Just so you know. I didn't like it, but I just wanted to put it out there as well, so you know. You need to change that. So that's the other problem that I had with this board. So overall, with this price and this coil wearing, not being able to use GPIO, this is absolutely not a hack board. You cannot use this. And if you wanted a workstation to, you know, thin client, to a remote desktop RDP connection to some other computers, and maybe watching videos, or maybe like even some gameplay, right? There's an Intel graphics built into this. Maybe you can do that. I will show you some footage from the 4K rendering, so you will see its performance. So if we go to YouTube and just search for some 4K video, you will see the performance. By the way, as you can see the speed, right now you can see, yeah, it's slow, and it is with the case. Remember, it's with the case, it's with their own power supply, and you know, considering all that, this is the performance. And you can see that why people don't like this board. As I said before, the comparison with the Raspberry Pi, I did not start it, they did it on their website. So they are saying that the Raspberry Pi 5, you know, they are comparing it with Raspberry Pi. I will show you. So if we go to this video and change the settings to 4K, yeah, I don't think it is playing that. Yep, it's dropping the frames, and it's dropping a lot of frames. So at least in Debian version, to be clear, maybe it's working properly in the Linux version, but in the Debian version, it's, as you can see, it's not even able to play the 4K video. So it could be related to the network connection, which shouldn't be. So let's try 1080p. Okay, 1080p playing. The screen resolution is 4K, by the way, so I also have to mention that. So let's see. Yeah, it's dropping a lot of frames. Even for 1080p, it's dropping a lot of frames. So it is not doing well, even in the graphics in Debian. So in Windows, I've seen others run a 4K video. I'm not sure if their screen resolution was also 4K, but if your screen is 4K and you're trying to play at 1080p, it's dropping a lot of frames. It's dropping a lot of frames. I don't think it is related to Wi-Fi as well, because Wi-Fi is sitting right next to me, the router, and yeah, and we can do a speed test as well, just to confirm. Let's do a speed test very quickly. Yeah, coil wearing, as you can hear, it is terrible. Okay, I have gigabit internet, but the Wi-Fi is not terrible. It's not bad. It's not bad. Wi-Fi is passable. This is the antenna. Probably I should mount it better, but yeah, it's 300 megabit per second with the Wi-Fi. So yeah, the connection is not the problem. So the problem is most likely, yeah, this is the speed test result. So this is the internet speed, but still it cannot play a 4K video at full resolution. It is going to drop a lot of frames for you in the Debian version, at least. Yeah, it's very, very underwhelming. It's not doing well. This is terrible. Okay, so you saw the results, and as I said, if you go to Hackboard, you will see that they are comparing it to the Raspberry Pi. And maybe in this page, maybe it was on their, yeah, here in the craft supply page, I believe they were comparing it. Yeah, they're right here. So they are comparing it to Raspberry Pi 4, to be fair, but still, I don't think it even compares to that. And the price point is very important. So yeah, $200 for Windows 11. So I got this one, right? And I got the 8 gig one. So this is what I got, $175, and you saw the results, right? I don't think it's a good board, and I got this aluminum case as well, which is this, and yeah, it's not worth it. So let me switch to Raspberry Pi so we can compare the results, the benchmarks and the results for the I/O and for the CPU. So overall, I'm not happy with this Hackboard, and I think it's not worth the price, and I believe we should just zap it. All right, I will be right back.
A few moments later.
Okay, we are back, and now I connected up this Raspberry Pi with the NVMe hat and the NVMe drive, and I'm booting from the NVMe. There's no SD card, so I just want to show you some differences. So if we go to do the same test, right, starting with the storage, you will see the difference right away. And I just want to show you one more thing. It's very important, I believe. As you can see, as the benchmark is running, the power consumption is like 5 volts, 1.1, 1.2, and I've seen it go all the way 1.4 when you were doing other benchmarks at the same time, like a CPU benchmark. So this 5 volt, 1.2 amp, 1.4, and the NVMe SSD connected to it, it's extremely efficient, and you will see the difference in the performance. So if we finish up the test, as you can see, it's day and night. So 760 megabyte per second read, and there is almost 366 megabyte write, and the IOPS is just 172,000, and yeah, it's day and night compared to the Hackboard, right? So if we do the very same test from the sysbench and do CPU and run and say threads equal 4, just like the other one. So we are running the same test we ran on the Hackboard, 4 threads and 4 threads. Let's compare the results, and I saw the amp goes all the way to 1.4 some point. Yeah, this is the result. So it's a lot better and more efficient and more usable. There is no coil whirring. You can do anything you want with the GPIO pins. NVMe is super fast. Power consumption, extremely efficient. It's just not comparable. So if we also, I'm sure you've seen others do it, so I don't need to do it, but you can very easily play 4K videos on this, and it's a little bit slow, but yeah, 4K. And if we play same video, right, the very same video, yeah, it starts playing immediately, although the resolution is 720. Let's go 1080, and let's see if it is dropping anything. Not really, but I don't see the 4K option here, so let's try again. So I've seen it. I've seen the 4K video play on this with no problem. Yeah, it is just much faster than the Hackboard, and as I said, you can connect you know, different Pi hats to this, and it will play with no trouble, with no problem, and then it just works out of box. And yeah, it doesn't make sense. If I'm spending that much money, I would just buy an Intel NUC, something from Minis Forum maybe, but not this. Definitely not this. Yeah, the best thing you can do with this is, as I said, just zap it. That's all you can do. I'm not gonna use this. Such a waste of opportunity. Anyway, thanks for watching. Bye for now.